Okay, well, in terms of being involved as a socialist at a young age, an activist, you have to look at your surroundings. And before you look at your surroundings, you have to get in touch with the person in the mirror. A lot of young kids today don't really have direction in terms of where they want to go because they don't know who they are. They have a following. I follow people blindly, merely because I don't have an idea of who I am, or where my environment is, or what my environment is, what needs to be changed, what can be better, what has been depressing or oppressing to us. And only way you're going to find that out is to find out who you are, find out the depth that you have in you. And once you find those things you'll have, you'll find that you have concern for humanity. You'll find that you have a will to realize that people in your community that you grew up with, people that you want to go to college with, people that you possibly want to start a business with one day, might have fallen off the track based on oppression that might have been applied, based on the fact that there might have been lack of education, based on the fact that there might have been lack of opportunity, based on the fact that they might have lost their life based on health issues because they didn't have health and Medicare for themselves. So various individuals can go in many directions, but you have to have that identity as to who you are and what you think needs to be changed for the better for society. Relative to the Olympic Games, I would think that you would be, as an activist again, looking towards what is the Olympics doing positive for the inner city, whether they just displace people to move them out of their community to build various activities for the Olympic Games. Many people are unemployed. Whether the Olympic Games will bring gainful employment for that weeks that's here, will people be able to receive a salary for it? Are they just trying to get the people to being volunteers, to make the country look good? But when the Olympics is all over, what's left for those inhabitants that had to move and give up their community or had to be involved in major traffic jams because they didn't move the traffic situation where it should have been moved? And once you come to a conclusion that things can be better, you have to figure out who do you direct it to. Is it though, like for instance, individual in the city, I have a problem with a tree because a tree is hanging low and it's blocking maybe a stop sign, and people are running down the hill. They don't see a stop sign and they keep running through. Someone does something to get killed one day, but I don't know which agency to call to have them to come clip that tree back. And it's pretty much the same relative to the Olympics. Who do you go to if you see that the Olympic Committee might need to change their thought process or have a new paradigm as to how they can make everyone inclusive to the games? You direct it to the International Olympic Committee and they say, the Olympic Games is a fine venue for all individuals to come to and have a festive sporting occasion. But within that venue at the same time, we feel that the smaller people, the little people, the individuals are sacrificing their life, sacrificing their growth in life, sacrificing their opportunities to take part in the games because they can't get tickets to go to the games, because they displaced them when they was building stadiums, because they never got a chance to invest monies to try and have an economic growth from the games as well. What happens along those lines, and start trying to funnel the International Olympic Committee views along that way to start thinking about how everyone can become inclusive into the game, not just merely the individual excuse me, that's participating in the games to have their day in the sun, and then those individuals that's going out the back door with the Brinks truck with all the money, they have their day in the sun. But what about the 90% of the population that's there? Let's define a few things first before we go into that. Politics, in my estimation, is like Hitler hosting the Olympics in 1936. For Hitler to put in the Olympics that I don't like Jews, and I'll be called the president of the International Olympic Committee, a man by the name of Avery Brundage, and say I don't like Jews, I don't want Jews on the United States team, I want you to move the Jews from the teams. And then the individual, Mr. Brundage, decides, well, politically, I agree with Mr. Hitler. So I will remove these Jews from the team. That's being political. Or another instance of being political is when they have all of the anthems and all of the different countries' flags going up. Those are political statements. Or for the host nation hosts the games and then the United States walks around, everyone dips their flag to the host nation and the United States doesn't dip its flag. That's a political statement. But what I did, what Mr. Smith did, Mr. Norman did, all we stood for was humanity. We didn't make any political overtones relative to the Olympic Games. We came on under the auspices of the Olympic Project for Human Rights. And if you was to look at human rights, what is the Olympics built upon? Well, the Olympics is built upon the rights of human beings, and those are human beings that's on the field of athletics. So we stand for those individuals in the stadium relative to human rights. We stand for those in and around the stadium for human rights. There was no political overtone, but they threw that word political up and try and throw it on us. But I always challenge the press and ask the press, why you confront me about that question, but you never confront those individuals that imply the political activities within the games? No, I anticipated very much so, based on the fact that, as I stated earlier today in this discussion that I had, this Olympics experienced something that no one has ever experienced on the face of the earth before, for individuals to be at a public venue such as the Olympic Games, and then at that particular time to have it going around the world and instantaneously, and then do something that the world has never seen before. It creates fear for many people. And then along the side of the fear, they have the right-wing press that's spilling out negatives about who we were, what we stand for. We're trying to destroy America. We anti-whites. We're anti the Olympic movement. We're black-skinned stormtroopers. These are the things that they will cast out to the general public. So what they did was to influence the public opinion as to what they was visioning at those particular games. Well, I think the people are getting stronger in terms of starting to read for themselves, opposed to having their governments read or having their politicians or having the clergy or big business read what they can read for themselves to determine whether society's headed in the right direction or the wrong direction. When you sit back and think about where people are today and the standard around the world, think about what's happening in Syria today, think about what happened in Egypt, think about what happened in Iran and Iraq and all through the Middle East. Think about what's happening in the United States in terms of occupy, I call it occupy the world, not necessarily occupy Wall Street. People are to the point now where they're starting to digest these things for themselves and realize that it's them against the major Fortune 500 of the world. Most definitely is bringing equality back on the agenda, and even greater than equality is bringing the economic strain that society has been dealing with for so long, in terms of people not having food on their tables or people not being able to maintain the homes that they paid for all this time. It's like buying a car, and now I bought the car and I paid the car off. As soon as I paid the car, now the car started breaking down on me. You paid for a house and you live in that house for 10, 15, 20 years, and now all of a sudden you got foreclosure sign on your door because they done took your job away from you. Or you can't go to get your medical needs taken care of because they didn't stop your medical insurance. Or you can't fight for equality in your job now because they destroyed the union. So many of these individuals now are stepping up around the world in regards to equality for just the common everyday working person. It's not about the Fortune 500 no more. It's not about that 1%. The 99% saying we carried the load all this time, and now it looks like you just want to totally disrespect and erase us from existence. And so people are stepping up to the plate now. Well, I think all parties relative to blacks and browns were very excited about what they experienced by Mexico City. Unfortunately for us, monetarily, they weren't in a position to lend any monetary support for us, when we came back, because we didn't have any jobs. Any money we had in the bank was starting to dissipate real quick. But in terms of love and admiration and appreciation for who we are and what we stand. Economically, a lot of those organizations didn't have no money. They wasn't, getting a whole bunch of money to lend support to us. And we was in a crisis that we knew we were going to be in. We knew that we was in a storm. And based on my, recollection, the vision that I had, God told me to just stand fast for what I believe in, and I'll be blessed and taken care of. And he's been true to his word. I had some hard times, but I've been blessed through the hard times, and I'm here to talk to you today. Well, I don't even think about building the international links as much as I think that people here are fighting against the same atrocities that we fought against in the United States. They have a royalty here that really doesn't have a big concern for the third world people in this country. The United States have a tendency to be the same way. And then you sit back and you take into account that this was the motherland for my country. They got some deep roots in terms of their history here. And the history that they have is the reason why we had so much tragedy, slavery, chaos through our society based on what was here by the royalty. And then, it spilled over into the United States. It spilled over to Australia for Peter Norman and his country, by sending the so-called thugs or gangsters or criminals into Australia to do what they did to the Aboriginal people, to go to Africa and do what they did to the Africans there, to go to the Middle East and do what they're doing there now, today, in modern time, to do what they did in America to the American Indians. So, these countries have a strong track record for the atrocities that has been done. And now they might get mad at me because I talk about it. They might get mad at activists because they talk about it. But the fact still remains, had it not been done, we wouldn't have no reason to talk about it. Now, we only talk about it in the sense that when are you going to turn the corner and try and make resolve for what you did? Like in the United States, you sit back and say, wow, we had a tremendous amount of presidents come through. But I've never seen any president step up to the plate and say to the American people, and particularly to black Americans, that, hey, we are sorry for slavery, for our history of slavery in this nation. I think that's a great resolve. Had any president of the United States stepped up to the plate and did this, merely because it's just like a mother having a baby and someone snatches the baby or kills the baby, and the mother for eternity don't know what they snatched the baby for, how they took her baby, why they killed the baby. There's no closure. There's no closure to slavery until someone steps up to the plate to make that statement that, hey, we are truly heartfelt sorry for what has happened in the past regards to slavery. Then that's a healing process. Then we can move on to try and build bigger and better situations. But when they know about this and then they want to persecute you because you speak on it, then it gives the indication that, yeah, we're satisfied with what happened in the history, and you better be careful because it might happen again, and it's not going to happen again relative to how we are today opposed to how we were yesterday. Yesterday we didn't have any means to defend ourselves in any way. We didn't have any laws that we could go and point to the law and say it's your responsibility to protect us, your responsibility to uphold the law. And then at the same time, we have other parts of the world that can step in now and be critical about things that's being done where it wasn't prevalent before in that situation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.